Facts about the facts about the facts about the United Compensatory Code System concept. The title, the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, refers to the basic means through which the people of the known universe, as individual persons, think, speak, and or act in order to compensate for those things which they, as individual persons, judge to be missing, that they have judged to be of value. When pertinent to those people of the known universe who are the victims of racism, white supremacy, each of the words used in the title of this book mean the following. United means that the victims of racism, non-white people who choose to be united, are united in regards to their thoughts as to the need to resist and or eliminate racism, white supremacy. Independent means that each and every individual victim of racism is, at all times, in all places, in all areas of activity, independent in regards to his or her choice of methods used to resist and or eliminate racism, white supremacy. This means that no person, not white or non-white, has the just or correct authority to force and or command any victim of racism to adopt any means of speaking and or acting against racism other than the means that the individual victim chooses for himself or herself. Compensatory means to make up for that which is missing, namely the revelation of truth and the use of truth in such a manner as to promote the production of justice and correctness. Justice and correctness is missing among the people of the known universe because the non-white people are dominated by and or tolerant of the racist. It is the racist who, in order to maintain the practice of racism, have produced the greatest and most effective system for promoting falsehood, non-justice, and incorrectness in the known universe. Code means that each individual victim of racism speaks and or acts to eliminate racism by utilizing selections from a list of suggestions or from a combined list of suggestions designed to help an individual victim of racism accomplish that purpose. System means that each individual victim of racism speaks and or acts to eliminate racism as an individual person according to that part of a pattern of certain forms of speech and or action suggested in a kind of listing code from which any victim of racism can pick and choose as he or she sees fit. When many victims of racism pick and choose to speak and or act against racism from the same general pattern and or code at a time and place of their choice as individuals, a system of speech and action becomes self-producing. Concept means that the entire united independent code system is no more than a concept or idea during a period when no person in the known universe is speaking and or acting to use truth in a manner that helps to produce justice and correctness. The united independent compensatory code system concept means any number of individuals who are victims of racism, white supremacy, who are in the process of thinking, speaking, and or acting effectively against racism according to what they, as individuals, pick and choose from a general code, outline, and or suggestion list for thought, speech, and or action that is especially designed for the purpose of helping an individual person to think, speak, and or act against racism. The code, outline, and or suggestion or suggested list must be designed and used for the purpose of not only eliminating racism, but to do so through the process of using truth in such a manner as to simultaneously produce justice and or correctness. All speech and or action must be at a time and place in the areas of activity, in the areas of activity of the individual victim's own choice. Other titles for the United Compensatory Code System concept are the Compensatory Code, the Compensatory Code System concept, the Compensatory Counter Racist Code, the Compensatory Counter Racist System, the Compensatory System, the Code, the United Independent Compensatory Code. Any person, while speaking and or acting in effective opposition to racism, white supremacy, and or acting in a manner that helps to produce justice or correctness is a producer, a promoter, and or a supporter of the United Compensatory Code System concept. The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept works in the following manner: provides ideas for speaking and or acting to eliminate racism, white supremacy, and for producing justice and correctness, and are listed as they come to mind. The list of ideas is arranged in an order or code of thought, speech, and or action that is designed to be used by an individual person. The individual person uses parts of the code that he or she judges to be best for promoting the production of justice and correctness and eliminating racism. The individual person does this by his or her own will, at a time and place of his or her own choosing, in any one or more listed areas of people activity, namely economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war counterwar. The individual person may refine the code by making his or her own additions or modifications to it. However, to eliminate to eliminate or prevent confusion, each individual person must identify his or her own work and make a clear distinction between what he or she is saying and what some other person is saying. Confusion is the enemy of correct compensatory science. Note, in both speech and writing, when a person is repeating something or something that another person has said, the truth, that truth should be made known in both speech and writing. This includes all similarities and non-similarities so that the correct context is not misunderstood. The basic guides used by supporters of the United Compensatory Code System concept are all sources of knowledge and understanding of truth, justice, and correctness. These sources include printed material, verbal messages, personal experiences, etc. There is no one person who is the leader of the United Compensatory Code System concept. Each person leads himself each person leads himself or herself each minute of each day and night according to what he or she has chosen from one or more parts of the code that he or she has judged to be of constructive value. Mhm. Roger that, roger that, roger that, roger that. Roger that. All right, where did we leave off? Question 12. What is meritorious manumission and does it still apply to blacks? Meritorious manumission was the legal act of freeing a slave for good deeds as defined by the national public policy. The term meritorious means something earned. Manumission means becoming free or freedom. During slavery, a slaveholder could grant freedom to a slave who distinguished himself by saving the life of a white person, inventing or designing something that enriched a white person, or snitched on other members of his race, especially those blacks who were resisting and contemplating a revolt. Meritorious manumission policies were not intended to unify slaves or make them more self supportive humans. Instead, the policies were designed to keep blacks non threatening and under control. Meritorious manumission became a public policy, became a public policy in the 1700s and was introduced to the Virginia legislature as a law in 1710. Incorporated into every aspect of the slavery system, it remained an active carrot and incentive through the social integration process, and it is still in operating is and it is still an operating principle at this present time. Meritorious manumission recognized and rewarded blacks who accepted their assigned position for a personal gain, would would thwart 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 openly or nefariously the efforts by other blacks to alter the racial status quo. The first person known to have received meritorious manumission set the baseline for benefits. Peter M. Bergman, in his book The Chronological History of the Negro, said the first person to receive meritorious manumission was a Negro named Will, who was recognized for having impeded a slave revolt in the South Carolina colony. He was rewarded his freedom for performing a public service. Will's freedom papers provided that he enjoy and have all the liberties, privileges, and immunities of or to be a free Negro. Once the public policy was in place, an endless number of slaves became sensitive to freedom opportunities that they could earn. In the 150 years between 1710 and 1860, black slaves reportedly revealed the plans of over 300 possible slave revolts or insurrections. Slaves warned slaveholders or the general public of the pending revolts in hopes of receiving meritorious manumission in the forms of personal recognition and material benefits. Another notable example of a black person seeking meritorious manumission occurred on the eve of the Civil War in 1859. Abolitionist John Brown and his raiding party traveled to Harper's Ferry, Virginia, to capture weapons from a U.S. Marine Corps armory to use the free black slaves. Uh, when John Brown and his party entered the town, a black man who had already won meritorious manumission was sitting on the porch of the railroad station and recognized Brown and his party. The black man, Hayward Shepherd, ran to alert the town that Brown was in town to free the slaves. Brown's raiders shot Shepherd down in the street. He was set free. Or he was free. He was free to sit on the porch that evening because he was no longer a slave. In gratitude for Hayward Shepherd's outstanding behavior of placing white society's political economic interests above the freedom and needs of members of his own race, the town erected a monument honoring him. The Hayward Shepherd statue was stored beside the city's major museum and covered with a wooden box in the 1960s. The inscription on the statue that the town of Harper's Ferry erected to honor Hayward Shepherd read, Hayward Shepherd statue in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. Source, author's personal collection. On the night of October 16th, Hayward Shepherd, an industrious, respected colored freeman, was mortally wounded by John Brown's raiders in pursuance of his duty as an employee of Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Company, Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Company, an employee. He became the first victim of this attempted insurrection. This boulder is erected by the United Daughters of the Confederacy and the Sons of Confederate Veterans as a memorial to Hayward Shepherd, exemplifying the character and faithfulness of thousands of Negroes who, under temptations throughout subsequent years of war, so conducted themselves that no stain was left upon a record, which is the peculiar heritage of the American people, an everlasting tribute to the best in both races. On the night of October 16th, Hayward Shepherd, an industrious, respected colored freeman, was mortally wounded by John Brown's raiders in pursuance of his duty as an employee of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Company. He became the first victim of this attempted insurrection. This boulder is erected by the United Daughters of the Confederacy and the Sons of Confederate Veterans as a memorial to Hayward Shepherd, exemplifying the character and faithfulness of thousands of Negroes who, under many temptations throughout subsequent years of war, so conducted themselves that no stain was left upon a record, which is the peculiar heritage of the American people, and an everlasting tribute to the best in both races. Meritorious manumission behavior is often observed, especially in the ranks of black elected officials, ministers, civil rights leaders, athletes, and entertainment personalities. These visible people, these visible people, anointed by others as leading blacks, are sometimes aloof and disconnected from their own race. All right, we can read that. All right. They are often required to disavow and abandon their own people in exchange for public attention, financial resources, and personal comfort. Once co-opted by the power structure, once co-opted by the power structure, they are effective tools to be used against or to control the black masses. The divide and conquer scheme makes a black minority even weaker and more exploitable. Blacks seeking meritorious manumission, for instance, will endorse political candidates knowing they will deliver nothing to black people. They will support integration with any group before seeking to strengthen their own people. Worst of all, those seeking modern day meritorious manumission believe that the advancement of their own race is wholly dependent on the advancement of the white race and all other peoples of the world. Meritorious manumission opportunities today are typically presented as symbols and incentives for satisfying race relations, such as being asked to support public policies that subordinate the interests of Native Black Americans to the interests of women, LGBT, immigrants, and other fabricated minorities. Most black civil rights leaders and elected officials that allow these groups to be equated to and ranked over blacks are seeking their meritorious manumission. So keep your eyes on Fox, CNN, or NBC television news channels and see if you can identify blacks seeking and getting meritorious manumission rewards and recognition. Ooh-wee! We are messed up. Messed up. Sad situation. Such a